Samuel, accused of being possessed, lived on the street for 4 years. Today he goes to school. He's living within his family once again.
Each time that I was teaching, Samuel was always at the door, and that made me ask myself, we must find this child's family. After searching, we were able to meet one of his aunts. It was difficult, but we insisted a lot, and the aunt gave us the address of this place.
I became pregnant with Samuel, and his father did not acknowledge the pregnancy. I brought him into the world. I educated him, and we took him to his father's family. We left him with his grandparents. They took him in, and it was they who abandoned Samuel in the street.
You were unaware that he was on the street?
We heard about it several years later. Today, Josephine is married to José. They have 4 children of their own.
I know Samuel's story very well. It hurt me as well. He is a human being. He should have been retrieved. But this is the joy of it. In our Congo culture, we say, if you like the safu tree, you must also like its fruit, the safu. I personally love this tree, and so how can I reject the fruit? This is why Samuel must stay with us, so that he understands that I am his father and that we must journey together. It has now been 3 weeks since he has been in his family. He is happy to be here.
Here there are many stories similar to Samuel's. We are in Kinshasa, the capital city of the Democratic Republic of Congo, a city of 8 to 10 million people who fight to survive each day after President Mobutu's 30-year dictatorship and a civil war lasting 10 years. This month, NetforGod will take you into the streets of Kinshasa to meet these children, rejected by their parents and family, and to live day and night on the Ngaba roundabout in the town of Makala. With Arnold and François, we went to their headquarters.
Generally, here we call them chégui or faiseurs. To feed themselves, they do little jobs. They pick up the braise. They sell it and they use this money to find food for the day. They have only one way of relating to each other, these kids, and that is violence. To eat, to clothe themselves, they have to fight. All their lives, they have to fight to survive.
Here in the street, it's the big shige who look after the small ones.
I've been on the street since I was 13. I'm now 25. I've been on the street for 12 years.
Why did you come to live on the street?
I found myself on the street because of the hard times. We're in the Congo here. We're 11 in my family and my parents don't earn enough to support us. So I'm on the street. I've also got a child called Chris, but he's not here at the Ngaba roundabout. Because I live on the street, both my wife and child live on the street. But I love my daughter very much. She is about 5 months old. I would like to have work, and I will also be among the people.
Gaylor is now 13 years old. His mother could not provide food for him at home. Since the age of 8 years old, the Ngaba roundabout has become his home because of the struggle to find food on the street. Every day, he goes to the Ndako Yabizo Center, a reception center for children living on the street, managed by the Chemin Neuf Community. Here, the organizers are looking for solutions so that Gaylor can rejoin his family.
We have already reintegrated Gaylor twice, but his mother is so poor that she cannot provide for him economically or emotionally. But we have found his father, who has a good job because he is a director at the SNE. So we went to see him with Gaylor. We prayed together so that Gaylor would be strong to meet his father. And when we arrived, Gaylor looked at his father and said, "What did you say?"
Papa, c'est Mike. Mike. Papa Mike.
He asked him, "Do you know who I am?" And his daddy replied, "Yes, you are my son." So he asked him, "And do you know my name? You know your son's name?" So the father looked at the ground because he did not know. And afterwards they took some time together to talk. And so, if things run smoothly, the daddy is now working things out with his new wife to find a solution to welcome him. Some water in the house. Yes, at your mummy's house there is some water in the house. But at daddy's house, maybe not. Do you want to go with daddy or with mummy? You want a dad. So he began to cry, and when he saw his daddy had some files that he knew how to write, he said, "But my father knows how to write, speak French, and he leaves my mother and I in squalor. He never taught me how to read or write." And he would like to find his dad to be taught how to read and write.
Along with Gaylor, there are some 40 boys from the ages of 6 to 18 who have been taken in and are being monitored every day in the Ndako Yabiso Center. They can have a meal here, get first aid, do their washing, and follow a literacy course.
La mission d'abord ici est sans doute un combat.
The mission here is without a doubt a struggle. And the first struggle is against poverty. It is against what we can essentially destroy human life. When a mother abandons her child, this is not part of African culture, of human nature. To reach this point, things have simply descended below a poverty threshold where everyone is reduced to personal survival.
Et ce combat-là, cette lutte-là contre la misère.
And basically, I can only begin to give of myself when I know that the Lord gives me enough to live on. One of the most beautiful examples for me is the voluntary working mothers who cook every day for the street children. Very often, they are women who live like the other women of this country, even though they do not necessarily have enough food to give to their own families every day. And yet, they have chosen to come each day, in turn, to prepare food for the street children simply because they are poorer than themselves. I believe that it was the Abbé Père who said, "You leave poverty when you are able to help someone poorer than yourself."
These children change us in many ways. They transform our grief. When my husband died, I felt abandoned. When I came to church in those days, I was a Sunday Christian. I had no responsibilities. When he died, I found that it would be better if I gave myself entirely to pray to my Jesus, to go and help the street children there.
aller servir les enfants là de la rue.
I became a servant to others. It brought a lot of joy.
Ça m'a donné beaucoup de joie.
The street for a child is so unnatural a place that he enters inevitably into a relationship of violence in order to survive. As long as the child is not in a position to be a child once again, that is, to be dependent on the adult world, he remains in this relationship of violence that separates him from the adult world. When the child comes to us and simply asks for some tenderness, when the child allows himself to become a child once more, then we know that we have got somewhere, and this is where every reintegration begins.
At that time, I found it difficult to live with Gloire because he was possessed. How can a parent take that? I lived in Lemba and I went to a group in Kasavubu. The man in charge was called Papa Tiala. I went with Gloire to the group to exercise the child. What did I do to Gloire? I really hurt him. I threw him out of the house because he was stubborn. He lived in broken down houses. Accused of being possessed, Gloire ended up on the street in June 2004.
I am a human being. I'm not an animal. My heart is not made of stone. It is made of flesh. Before, I wanted to study. I really did not want to go on the street. But I reached that point of being on the street. Mummy swore at me, saying to me that in our family nobody loved me. That really disturbed me, and so I decided to go away, to leave them behind. Before leaving, I told my mother, I am leaving, but I tell you that one day someone else will pay for my teaching and God will help me. As I was saying that, I hadn't a clue where I was going. We met him near the Ngaba roundabout. When he arrived, we listened to him, and this is how we found his family, we found his mother. And we began mediation, during which we tried to get mother and child to be reconciled.
On the day they arrived, I was gardening. I turned round and I saw a man with Gloire. I was scared, really scared. Brother Arnold said, "Mother, do not be afraid." He asked me, "Mother, can you explain how the child left the house to live on the street?" I explained everything. How I had thrown the child out of the house. I then asked my son to forgive me because I realized that I'd hurt him. And what I had done to him had made him become a shege. Gloire has been living with his mother and his younger brother since January 2006 in the Lemba area.
My mother asked me to forgive her, and I forgave her for everything. It was her apology that gave me the joy to come back home and to study as well. One of the activities that I do is gardening. I should be able to buy at least something by selling the products. And God listened to my prayer. I told Oda, one of my friends, about this, and he told me, if you want us to go and work, I must first ask my father. We went off, and now we work together in a garden.
In the space of 2 years, over 120 children have been reintegrated into their families by this project of the Nadako Yabiso Center. Not far from the center, the St. Christine School has been rebuilt in 2 years, thanks to the work of many people in the country. Thanks to an extraordinary network of associations and sponsorship, 1,200 children are currently received in infant school, primary and professional schooling.
We have many children who were running around the street all day doing nothing and resulting in teenage pregnancies. So, when they are supervised, we can give them a job in order to earn a living.
The girls must be good at their household tasks. They must know how to manage their homes.
It wasn't only the buildings that needed reconstructing. We had to try to build a teaching team that would pray together and share with one another their experiences with the children.
We designed a pedagogy around the idea of unity.
One of our problems was to ensure that the teachers were paid about the right amount so that they didn't spend half their time finding enough money to support the needs of their families.
Lucie, a young French woman, is a member of this teachers' fraternity. She has been with the community in Kinshasa for several months on the JET project, Young People Abroad. Being with these children, I receive much more than I give to them, and I think it makes me really understand the gospel and meet with Christ.
I have the impression that the Lord has built this body, the community, calling each of us to allow us to carry out this mission together.
Today there are 25 members of the Chemin Neuf Community living in Kinshasa. 6 different nationalities living in this house in the area of Righini. Men and women, priests, celibates and families, all of whom have chosen to put themselves at the service of the church, following a poor and humble Christ.
The Lord met me, and I met the Lord. Prayer helps me particularly in the work with the street children, with the Chegué. It's a prayer that gives me this internal strength to stay close to these children. I am from Brazzaville in the Congo. Coming here, I asked myself lots of questions about what was going on here. But I'm realizing more and more that at the heart of everything we do here with all these nationalities, there is the presence of a person who is there and who draws us to him, Jesus. For me, the most important thing is knowing that I can lean on my brothers and sisters and that I don't have to forge ahead alone. I'm not trying to go anywhere alone, but with my brothers and sisters.
la vie communautaire. C'est un trésor qui est...
Community life is a precious treasure, but it's also a fragile treasure. So we have very regular times in community, times of reconciliation between ourselves, because we know that the bond between us is vital.
Elle est vitale pour chacun d'entre nous, mais elle est
It's vital for each and every one of us, but also for the mission that the Lord has entrusted to us. So we have to safeguard these links day in and day out.
jour après jour.
Sister Iliane from the Ivory Coast has been housekeeper for the community since September 2004. I arrived here in Kinshasa, and when I looked around me and saw the people and the situations here, I was constantly comparing them with my own country. I told myself, but in my country it's not like that. When I saw the way some young girls dressed, I thought, that's amazing. They don't do that where I come from. And I could easily make comparisons and judgments. The other thing is that between ourselves we spoke quite often about what we were experiencing and all the things we were being asked for. We were often asked because we are a religious order. And it's true that by laughing, sometimes we can start to make judgments. And what helped me to change the way I saw the situation, or the people, and to speak differently about the situation, was having brothers from this country in the community. Knowing that I had brothers from this country who were in the community made me think, I can't allow myself to talk about their country like this. Out of respect for them, we have to respect. And I remember that, for me, this was an occasion when I asked forgiveness from my Congolese brothers and sisters for the way in which I'd spoken about what I saw. This changed me and helped me to talk about the situation differently. And also the fact of knowing that my country, the Ivory Coast, was going through a time of war. I think that helped me to take myself a little less seriously. It's true that in a certain way, when we speak of the Ivory Coast in relation to Kinshasa and the Congo, Ivory Coast is important. And without realizing it, I believe that there was a certain pride in me. I was proud to be from the Ivory Coast. And I've learned here, looking at what the Ivory Coast is going through, to speak about the situation quite differently. This has lessened my pride a little. I have learnt to take myself a bit less seriously. Because whichever country we come from, we all go through the same things of war, conflicts and difficulties. So it's not for me to judge the situation in the Republic of Congo, because there's the same situation in my country, perhaps to a different degree, but it's the same situation. I should respect what I see and take it quite simply to the Lord.
L'amitié avec Jésus est beaucoup plus importante que ma vie.
Friendship with Jesus is much more important than my life. Friendship with Jesus is more important than my life. I was in the middle of praying when gradually I felt these words rising up in me. At the beginning I was surprised and thought, Lord, we mustn't exaggerate. I've already given you my life, so if friendship with you is more important than my life, it's impossible.
Là, c'est impossible, quoi. But
there was something that I'd missed, because this phrase became more and more insistent. After a moment, I began to say this phrase myself. Friendship with Jesus is much more important than my life. And the more I said it, the more I realized that there was something true here that I needed to hold on to. I couldn't but consent to it. Arriving here in the house, I've confirmed this. We're often asked for things. People regularly come and knock on the door to ask for help. because they're hungry, they need money. We give them money or something to eat.
On donnait soit de l'argent, soit quelque chose à manger.
But I realized that the more we gave, the more people came to the door. And it was often the same people who came 3, 4, 5 times. Eventually they started to annoy me. In my irritation, I began to get into the habit of not giving. But that caused me to question my conscience. I realized that I had to find once again the presence of God inside myself. This solitude of heart was necessary because this was the place where the Lord really drew me to Himself, so that a true fellowship could exist with others, and so I could also reach out to those outside. What the Lord was asking of me was not generosity. It wasn't just give, because I couldn't do it anymore and it was just an irritation. But what He asked of me above all was obedience, because obedience readjusted me to Him. Obedience put me where the Lord was waiting for me, where He needed me. And that's when I felt that the Lord was inviting me very simply to welcome the person just because it was a person. As a couple, we have chosen to follow Jesus.
God has given us everything. He gave us life and children.
Bertie and Ignace Boulweme are both teachers. Coming from the parish of Kalamu with their 2 children, they are journeying with the Chemin Neuf Community. When I took part in World Youth Day in 1997 in France, I stayed with my aunt, who lived in Paris at Argenteuil. And as I was young, my aunt invited a man over. He wanted to marry me. At the time, I was engaged to Ignace. This man came and we met. He offered me everything. But I told him I was already part of someone's plan for their life. And they found that I was a bit funny because in the Congo everything was a bit chaotic. At the time, the Congolese musicians used to say, in Africa it's warm, in Europe it's paradise, Africa is hell. And they always ask me the question, are you really determined to go back to hell when you've just come to paradise? I said, I prefer to go back to hell in order to live in peace, because I would have a problem with my conscience. I categorically told them no. They didn't understand me. What everyone wants at the moment is to travel, to leave the Congo, to leave Africa, and to go to Europe. But that wasn't for me, because I had already made a commitment to Ignace, who's with me at my side. And I find I can live in peace at his side. I don't regret having refused this marriage in Europe.
I think that if everyone began to love the country and began to work normally, there would be every chance that things would work. Jesus is a solution because whoever believes in him becomes a new person, which means they no longer act as in the past, but they act like they are in Christ. If everyone believed in Jesus today and was converted, Jesus would change hearts, and these hearts would change the world.
For this month, we propose that we join with the words of Sister Iliane and to pray for this country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. I have learned to see many things. I was too shocked to stop and look. This gave me questions about God and about men. I remember that quite often I would think, Lord, this is a man. Lord, this is a father. See what sort of state he's in. See what sort of a state she is in. And a prayer for this man or this woman would go up from my heart. And that really led me to pray for what I saw. The word of the month is in Luke chapter 4, verses 18 and 19. This word of the prophet Isaiah, spoken by Jesus in the synagogue at Nazareth, is the foundation of the vocation of the Chemin Neuf Community and the international ecumenical fraternity. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because He has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour. Like Lucy and many others from various countries, it's possible to leave for a mission abroad for 1 or 2 years with the Chemin Neuf Community as part of our international volunteer programme, JET. JET members work in 15 different countries, living in community and helping the poorest of the poor. If you would like to take part in the mission of the Chemin Neuf Community in Africa or in other countries, or to support our work financially, you can contact us at NetforGod at cheminneuf.org. You can send your donations by cheque payable to the Chemin Neuf Community to the address on the screen, or by back transfer to the community's bank account.